All right, Bears fans, let's set the stage because the buzz around this matchup couldn't be any bigger. Monday Night Football is around the corner, and Chicago opens the season against none other than the Minnesota Vikings. You've got two franchises that went in completely different directions last year, two rosters that don't look anything like they did a season ago, and two fan bases that are already circling this one as a tone setter for the year. For Chicago, the story is about change, about shaking off the frustration of a 5-win campaign and finally trying to move forward with Caleb Williams leading the charge in year two. For Minnesota, the script is different. They're coming off a 14-win season, but they have a brand-new quarterback in J.J. McCarthy stepping into some very big shoes. The contrast alone makes this one of the most intriguing season openers we've had in years. Think back to how things ended for the Bears last season. 5 wins, 12 losses, and an overwhelming sense that the coaching staff just wasn't getting it done. The front office didn't waste time. Matt Eberflus is gone, and in comes Ben Johnson, a name a lot of people around the league have been buzzing about as the next big thing. He isn't just head coach, he's taking control of the offense, calling plays, and making this unit his own. He brings along Declan Doyle as offensive coordinator and Dennis Allen to run the defense. But make no mistake, this is Johnson's show now. That means creativity on offense, more structure for Caleb Williams, and ideally, fewer moments where the quarterback is running for his life. And speaking of Caleb, he's no longer the rookie learning on the fly. He's had a full season of ups and downs, valuable experience, and now it's about taking that next step. The numbers from last year weren't pretty on offense. Chicago ranked 28th in points per game, just over 18 per contest. That's not going to cut it. On defense, they were middle of the pack, 13th in scoring, giving up 21 a game, but they did finish 9th in turnover margin, which was a silver lining. Williams protected the football, and the defense at least forced enough takeaways to keep some games closer than they should have been. But the big question is whether those incremental positives translate into real wins now that the roster has been overhauled. And let's not gloss over those roster moves, because Chicago was busy. The offensive line was a priority, and they went right into the trenches with additions like Joe Thuney, Drew Dalman, and Jonah Jackson. That's 3 experienced starters, all with the potential to solidify the interior, which was a glaring weakness last year. In the draft, they landed pass catchers like Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, adding even more options for Williams. They brought in Olamide Zakos, who's been lighting it up in training camp. And on defense, they added Grady Jarrett and Deo Odiingbo to try and bolster a line that simply wasn't disruptive enough last season. Everywhere you look, this roster feels reloaded, like a team trying to accelerate a rebuild rather than take baby steps. Now, on the other sideline, Minnesota couldn't have asked for much more in the regular season a year ago. 14 wins, an offense that ranked top 10 in points per game, a defense that ranked top 5 in scoring, and a turnover margin that consistently put them in position to close out games. Kevin O'Connell and his staff are still in place, and that stability matters. Wes Phillips is still coordinating the offense. Brian Flores is still running the defense. And O'Connell still has the play-calling duties. The Vikings were rolling. But then came the offseason shakeup at quarterback. Sam Darnold, who finally looked like he had figured things out, left in free agency. In his place is J.J. McCarthy, a first-round pick with a lot of talent, but not a single NFL snap yet. It's a bold move, and while the ceiling might be higher in the long run, nobody really knows what to expect on Monday night. Minnesota also reshaped parts of its roster. Jordan Mason arrived via trade to pair with Aaron Jones in the backfield. They pulled off a homecoming of sorts, bringing Adam Thielen back in a deal just as Jordan Addison was suspended to start the season. That's crucial because Addison was expected to be a big part of the passing game alongside Justin Jefferson. Without him, Thielen steps right into a key role, and Bears fans know just how reliable he can be. Along the offensive line, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, and Will Fries give Minnesota a rebuilt interior. While on defense, they made a splash, signing Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave to beef up the front. Throw in Isaiah Rodgers at corner, and it's clear they're not standing still. This is a team retooling on the fly while still aiming for the playoffs. When you line the two teams up side by side, It feels like both went through serious facelifts, but the motivations were different. Minnesota's tweaks were about staying on top. Chicago's were about climbing out of the basement. One is betting on a rookie quarterback to keep their window open. The other is betting on a second-year quarterback to finally open the window. It's fascinating because the questions are massive on both ends. Will Ben Johnson look like the offensive mastermind people have hyped him to be? Can Caleb Williams look like the franchise cornerstone? Will J.J. McCarthy hold his own under the primetime lights? Or will the Bears' defense make him look like a rookie? And perhaps most importantly, which offensive line gels faster? Because both have been completely retooled inside. Of course, it wouldn't be football season without the injury watch, and both squads are dealing with question marks heading into the week. For Chicago, Jalen Johnson's status is up in the air. Jaquan Brisker picked up a knock in practice, and running backs Kyle Manengai and Roscon Johnson have been banged up. T.J. Edwards is also something to monitor. Minnesota, meanwhile, already knows they won't have Jordan Addison, and Jalen Naylor has a hand injury that could keep him limited. Andrew Van Ginkel has missed practice time, though he's expected to play, and veteran safety Harrison Smith is dealing with a personal health issue that raises some concern. Early season games are always about who's healthiest, and the fact that we don't even have the first official injury report yet adds to the suspense. Coaching edge? That's a fascinating debate. On paper, it's Kevin O'Connell all day. He's already got double-digit win seasons under his belt. He's won 30-plus games in the regular season, and he's established his offensive system as one of the most efficient in football. Ben Johnson, though, is the unknown. You can see the potential, the offensive creativity, the way he wants to design a system around Caleb Williams. But this is his very first game as a head coach. Preseason results don't mean much, and now he's going against one of the sharper young minds in the league. It's a trial by fire, and if Johnson holds his own, it's a statement moment for Chicago. That's just scratching the surface, because linebackers and secondaries bring their own storylines, and we haven't even touched on special teams yet. But you can already feel it. This matchup isn't just about one game in the standings. It's about two teams trying to define themselves at the start of a new year. One is climbing, one is trying to stay on top, and both fan bases are desperate to see their side make the first statement of the season. When you shift the focus away from the flashy storylines of new quarterbacks and coaching changes and start digging into the nuts and bolts of these rosters, you realize that the real battle is going to be fought in the less glamorous units. Linebackers, secondaries, and even special teams could end up deciding who walks away with the first big divisional win of the season. That's what makes this matchup so intriguing, because on paper you can find reasons to give either team the edge depending on what you value most. The Vikings come in with a defensive front that looks menacing and a coaching staff that thrives on applying pressure, while the Bears counter with athletic linebackers and a secondary that, when healthy, can compete with anyone. The problem is that health is already in question, and that's where the nerves start to creep in for Chicago fans. Take the linebacker groups. For Minnesota, Brian Asamoah has developed into a steady force. Ivan Pace Jr. is a tackling machine who doesn't mind sticking his nose in the trenches, and they've got enough rotation to keep guys fresh through 4 quarters. The Bears, meanwhile, brought in T.J. Edwards last year to pair with Tremaine Edmonds, and on paper, that's as solid as it gets. Edwards is the cerebral type, a guy who rarely misses an assignment, while Edmonds is the athlete who can erase mistakes with range and length. If both are locked in, this is one of the better linebacker tandems in the league. The question is consistency. Edmonds has stretches where he looks dominant, and then other moments where he disappears, and fans are eager to see if he could be the same player week to week. Edwards should stabilize things, but against a team like Minnesota that will test you with Aaron Jones out of the backfield and Hawkinson over the middle, it's going to be a long night if Chicago's linebackers aren't sharp from the first snap. Then there's the secondary. If you're a Bears fan, this is the part of the depth chart that probably keeps you awake right now. Jalen Johnson is the lockdown guy, the corner who can at least make life difficult for top-tier receivers. But his status is uncertain, and even if he does suit up, there's the possibility he's limited or on a snap count. If he's not out there at full strength, the task of slowing down Justin Jefferson becomes a nightmare scenario. No team has really figured out how to stop Jefferson, but you need at least one elite corner just to give yourself a chance to keep him under control. Without Jalen, that responsibility could fall on Tariq Stevenson or rookie corners who are still figuring things out. And that's not the recipe you want when facing arguably the best receiver in football. Chicago does have talent at safety, and that could be a saving grace. Jaquan Brisker has become a tone setter, a guy who plays downhill with aggression and can also cover ground in the passing game. Kyler Gordon in the slot provides versatility, and Eddie Jackson, when healthy, is still a savvy veteran who can bait quarterbacks into mistakes. But all of that only works if the corners hold up, because Jefferson forces you to tilt coverage his way. Double him, triple him, and suddenly you're leaving Hockenson and Thielen with favorable matchups. That's where the chess match begins, and it's why the injury report this week feels so significant for the Bears. Minnesota's secondary isn't bulletproof either. They brought in Isaiah Rodgers to shore up the outside, and he's expected to be one of their starting corners. He's quick, aggressive, and fits well in Brian Flores' system, but beyond him there are questions. The Vikings have dealt with inconsistency at corner for years, and while their safeties bring some stability, you could argue this unit isn't exactly airtight. The difference, though, is that their pass rush often hides those flaws. When you've got Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave collapsing pockets and edge rushers pinning their ears back, corners don't have to hold up for long. That's where Minnesota's advantage becomes clear. They don't need a perfect secondary if the quarterback is under duress all game long. Special teams is an area that tends to get overlooked until it directly costs someone a win. In this matchup, the Bears might actually have the advantage. Cairo Santos was one of the most consistent kickers in football last year, and rookie punter Torrey Taylor has already made a name for himself with booming kicks and precision placement. Compare that to Minnesota, where the kicking situation has been more unstable and the return game is relying on unproven players. Those hidden yards on punts and kickoffs matter, especially in divisional games where field position can swing momentum. A 50-yard punt that flips the field, a reliable extra point when the game is tight, those are the kinds of plays that could decide this one. So with all those positional breakdowns laid out, where does that leave us when you look at the matchup as a whole? It feels like a clash of philosophy as much as anything. Chicago is betting on a modern, offensive-minded head coach to unlock the potential of their young quarterback. They've stocked him with weapons, reinforced the offensive line, and essentially said, "This is your team now. Take us where we need to go." Minnesota is doing almost the opposite. They already had the coaching stability, they already had the defense, and their big gamble was replacing a veteran quarterback with a rookie. In other words, they're betting that the machine around J.J. McCarthy is strong enough to carry him while he develops. One side is trying to climb, the other is trying to maintain, but both are taking risks. That's why this season opener is so unpredictable. On one hand, you can see a scenario where Caleb Williams looks comfortable, spreads the ball around to his 7 or 8 reliable playmakers, and the Bears grind out a win at home. On the other hand, you can also imagine J.J. McCarthy making just enough plays while Minnesota's pass rush overwhelms Chicago's offensive line, and the Vikings walk away with a low-scoring victory. Both paths make sense, and that's what makes it so fun to debate. The head-to-head history between these franchises also adds some spice. The Bears and Vikings have been trading blows in the NFC North for decades, and even when one team is down, the games tend to be physical, sloppy, and full of drama. Fans remember the heartbreakers, the missed kicks, the turnovers in the fourth quarter. They remember games where one play swung the entire outcome. Monday night has that same feel, like the kind of contest where neither side will pull away and it'll come down to who executes better in the last 5 minutes. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In recent days, the sports world has been buzzing with speculation after Joe Buck, one of the most recognizable voices in American sports broadcasting, allegedly directed strong criticism toward the Chicago Bears front office during a private conversation that somehow leaked into the media sphere. According to whispers circulating among insiders, Buck expressed frustration with what he perceives as years of mismanagement, questionable draft decisions, and a lack of clear direction for one of the NFL's most storied franchises. While it is important to note that these remarks have not been officially confirmed or directly quoted, the rumor alone has ignited endless debates on talk shows, fan forums, and social media feeds. The idea of such a high-profile commentator openly voicing dissatisfaction with the team's leadership has created an air of intrigue, particularly because Buck has generally maintained a professional tone when addressing teams and organizations publicly. Fans are left wondering whether this rumor reveals deeper truths about the state of the Bears, or if it is simply an overblown anecdote being inflated by the relentless cycle of sports gossip. Either way, the chatter refuses to die down, and the Bears' reputation, already under scrutiny, is facing another layer of uncomfortable attention. Observers close to the situation argue that if Buck did indeed voice harsh words about the Bears' leadership, it could mark a significant shift in how the national sports media is willing to engage with the franchise. Traditionally, the Bears have enjoyed a level of reverence due to their historic status in the NFL, but persistent struggles on the field and confusing executive decisions have tested the patience of even the most loyal supporters. For Joe Buck, whose career thrives on professionalism and impartiality, to allegedly break that mold and express dissatisfaction suggests a tipping point may have been reached. Many speculate that the core of Buck's alleged criticism lies in the team's inability to capitalize on opportunities to rebuild effectively, often clinging to short-term fixes instead of long-term strategies. Whether this perspective is accurate or not, the rumor has resonated because it mirrors frustrations many fans have voiced for years. The fact that someone of Buck's stature is even rumored to have said these things adds legitimacy to what might otherwise be dismissed as routine fan discontent, thereby amplifying the conversation in ways the Bears front office likely did not anticipate or welcome. The timing of this supposed criticism also fuels speculation, as the Bears have recently been the subject of both cautious optimism and lingering doubt. A handful of promising young players, coupled with off-season moves that suggested a potential shift in philosophy, had started to rebuild confidence among fans. Yet, according to the rumor, Buck's comments reflect skepticism about whether these changes will amount to meaningful progress or simply repeat the same cycles of mediocrity that have plagued the team in recent years. Sports journalists and pundits have quickly seized upon this tension, weaving Buck's alleged words into broader narratives about institutional dysfunction, questionable leadership, and the challenges of modernizing a legacy franchise. For the Bears, the worst aspect of this rumor might not even be the potential truth of Buck's statements, but rather the symbolism. That a figure is respected as Buck could be seen as voicing the doubts many already carry quietly. It suggests that even outside observers believe the problems are systemic, and no amount of spin from press conferences or optimistic previews can fully quiet the growing sense of unease. Adding to the intrigue, reactions to the rumor have been mixed, with some fans celebrating the idea that someone with a national platform might be holding the Bears accountable, while others dismiss it as media-driven noise. Social media has amplified these divisions, with supporters of Buck praising his supposed candor and detractors accusing him of overstepping his role as a broadcaster. The Bears front office, predictably, has not issued any comment, choosing silence over engagement in what they may view as an unfounded distraction. Yet, silence often breeds further speculation, and the refusal to deny or address the chatter only deepens the mystery. Some insiders believe this lack of response might indicate that Buck's criticism, whether directly quoted or paraphrased, struck closer to the truth than the organization is comfortable admitting. Meanwhile, rival fans have eagerly embraced the storyline, using it as ammunition in age-old debates about the Bears' relevance and competence. The episode highlights how modern sports discourse often blurs the line between factual reporting and rumor-fueled theater, creating narratives that take on a life of their own regardless of whether the original spark was substantial or fleeting. Ultimately, whether or not Joe Buck truly delivered the alleged critique, the rumor has taken on symbolic weight, reflecting broader frustrations with a team that many feel has failed to live up to its historic legacy. The Bears, once synonymous with toughness, tradition, and competitive pride, now find themselves as frequent targets of criticism, not only from fans but also, apparently, from respected voices within the media landscape. Buck's supposed comments have served as a mirror for the frustrations of Chicago's faithful, who watch season after season unfold with flashes of hope followed by waves of disappointment. The fact that this rumor has persisted and dominated conversations underscores how fragile the Bears' credibility has become and how eager people are for accountability. Even if Buck never intended for his words to reach the public, the idea that he might have spoken them resonates powerfully because it encapsulates the doubts of an entire fan base. And so, until the Bears can produce results that silence both critics and rumors, their leadership will remain a subject of speculation, their decisions a matter of contention, and their future a question mark shadowed by both whispers and headlines. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.